So can homemaking be a form of ministry? I follow a woman named Kyrie on YouTube. Her channel is called the Transform Homemaker Society. And I'm also a part of her email list. So not too long ago, she sent an email and the title was The Ministry of Home or something like that. And it was just really interesting. I'm going to pull it up because I don't want to leave anything out. Yeah, so it's titled Your Ministry of Home. And in the email, she talked about how homemaking is a form of ministry, and she referenced the Proverbs 31 woman. And she talked about basically how the Proverbs 31 woman, how her role within the home was a form of ministry. And so she talked about how she was an excellent wife whose husband could trust her. She talked about how she was someone who works diligently and willingly and does the work of provisioning for her home, how she wakes up early, feeds her family. She's generous to the needy, keeps good watch over her home, and is prepared for the future. How she sells she sells the things that she makes. How she's wise and kind and not lazy, and then how she fears the Lord. Usually when you think of ministry, you think of something that is associated with church, or like you're knocking on doors and you're spreading the gospel to people. But it's kind of hard to understand, I guess, how that looks at home. And I think I'm still learning. I'm still figuring that out. But I guess also just how in the Bible, like with the Proverbs 31 example, how it talks about her being a good steward over her home and how her children and her husband call her blessed. And so I guess I could see how me just leaning more into taking care of my home and of being a good helpmeet to my husband, which is another thing that the Bible calls us to do and talks about. I guess I could also see how that could be a form of ministry. And then also, like, once you have children and then discipling them at home, of just making sure that you're training them up in the way that they should go and training them up in the way that Christ calls us to do. I definitely, like, I think that stood out the most to me. Of I see how motherhood for sure could be a form of ministry. And I guess marriage, I would assume maybe it could just be, again, you showing up the way that God calls us to do in the Bible, of helping our partner, supporting our partner, and showing them the love that Christ shows us. I guess maybe that's what it would look like, as far as just between a husband and a wife, of homemaking being a form of ministry, of you exhibiting Christ-like, attitude and behaviors towards your spouse. So, like I said, I'm still, I guess, trying to understand exactly what that looks like. And I think that that's also just part of my journey. And that's why I love consuming content like Kyrie's channel. There's a few other channels that I like to watch that I'll link down below as well, that have helped me in my homemaking journey. And they're also Christian homemakers as well. And that's definitely something that I want to just explore more on my channel while I journey, while I'm on this homemaking journey. Another thing that she has said that really stuck out to me in her email was how one of her mentors, so Kyrie had got the opportunity to serve in her church, and she was really excited about it, but she had spoke to one of her mentors about it. And her mentor was basically like, okay, that's great, and I'm excited for you too, but your first ministry is your ministry of your home. And if your home isn't in order, then maybe it's not the best idea for you to now accept this new responsibility in ministry outside of the home. And that really stuck with me as well too, because I do find myself wanting to lean more into helping out at church, or how I mentioned in a previous video, how I was leading the children's ministry. And that's something that right now it's on pause, but it really did get me thinking too of, well, before I do try to lean in even more outside of the home in ministry, I need to make sure that my home is in order first. And there's so many things that I'm still trying to work on myself. Of course, it will never be perfect, but even just doing better with meal prepping and being able to make sure that we have healthy meals on the table, if not every night, at least most nights. It's okay to order out sometimes, but for me personally, that's something that I want to prioritize. I want to make sure that I plan ahead, even like the Proverbs 31 woman, how it talks about her basically being prepared for like the winter, making sure that I believe it said like that her children, that they have like warm clothes or that they're prepared. And I don't quite feel like I'm there yet of being prepared. But I do want to lean even more into the ministry of my home and having things a little bit more in order before I focus on what's outside. I think also when I view my role in the home as a homemaker of a form of ministry, it also empowers me, I would say, even more. Again, usually when it comes to being more involved in church or being a Christian, you're thinking of outside of the home, but it is also empowering to know that even just me being at home, even me just showing up even better at home with a positive attitude and fostering a positive atmosphere and being intentional about the atmosphere of my home is also me being of service. So that feels really good too. And again, I just look forward to learning more. I love reading books. Right now I'm reading books that are more focused on like raising Christian children. But again, I think that ties into the ministry of the home and being able to disciple my children. And although I don't have children yet, I think that it is still important to spend the time being intentional of just preparing myself in this waiting season. But yeah, those are pretty much my thoughts. Again, I look forward to just exploring this topic more. Especially on my channel, I never want to paint myself as an expert. I'm just a student of life, constantly learning new things. Like I said, I enjoy learning, kind of doing a deep dive on things. And so as I learn, I would love to just share what I learned, but then also if there are things that you're a little bit more versed in, or if there are any books that you recommend, I would love for you to share that with me as well, or share it in the comments for all of us. But I am going to head back into the kitchen and finish up the pumpkin loaf. So I will see you inside.